Hi, welcome to Yoga with me, Basanti. I'm sitting in shukhasana. Maybe you want to join me there. Shuk means happy. It's often translated as the easy pose, which is correct, of course. But happy is also correct. So in the happy pose, just observe your breath and sort of get yourself ready to spend an hour just in your body without any distractions, apart from my voice, of course. Maybe you've noticed that your breath is becoming a little bit slower. Gently bring your left ear to the left shoulder. Maybe adding hands, left hand on the head, right hand walks to the side. And the breath should just be free-flowing, unconstricted. Chin towards collarbone, armpit, somewhere where it's comfortable. And if you are using the hand, you could still keep using the hand, gently applying a little tiny bit of pressure at the back of the head. So really up to you to decide how the neck feels. And then chin to chest, maybe with both hands behind your head, trying to keep your back straight while just the chin comes to the sternum. And slowly release. We're going to change this side of shukhasana here. So the inner foot comes to the outside, outer foot goes in. Hopefully that's comfortable too. And then when you're ready, right ear to the right shoulder. Right hand could add some weight, left hand could walk to the side. Again, we decide if that's maybe a little bit too much and if we just want to rest the hands on the knees or somewhere. And then chin to the armpit or collarbone. And then all the way down to the chest, and we're gonna round our back. Hands are optional at the back of the head, but we're gonna round as much as we can. If your hands are at the back of the head, try to aim your elbows towards your hips rather than the front of the mat or your feet. And then slowly roll up, hands behind the head. Raise your head and start drawing circles. And with the hands behind the head, that should be comfortable enough. But if it isn't, of course, adapt half circles or something else. And then from here, right hand down, left arm reaches over to the right side. We move into our fingers and our wrist. And then open the palm to the ceiling. Push your elbow down behind you and reach. Fingertips to the right and elbow down, and then hand down, round your back and roll up. And go for the other side, but before we do, other side of shukhasana again. Left hand down, right arm over to the left side, move into your wrist and fingers. And open the palm to the ceiling, press your elbow to the back, reach the fingertips to the side again. And then from here, hand down, round your back, roll up through the spine. Hands on the shoulders to draw circles with the elbows. Taking the elbows far back to feel your shoulder blades. And then hands together in front of you. We drop our ears to the sides. Chin from side to side, so towards the collarbone. And then round your back, arms to the front and up, and we press the elbows down. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, elbows down. You could go slower than me, depends on your breath. You could also hold your breath at the bottom, at the top, if it feels nice to hold the posture, if it feels nice to hold the breath. And then come onto all fours from here. So always checking that you're aligning knees and hips, wrists and shoulders, and then squeezing the shoulder blades as you drop the chest and pushing the shoulder blades apart, lengthening the arms. Round your back, drop the head. Arch your back, raise the head, And as you'll know, unless this is your first class with me, inhale and arch, and exhale and round. Letting the breath come first, letting it guide your movement. And then as you round, right hand to the left side. And round again, left hand to the right side. Hips push a little bit to the left. And back into Padmanasana, tabletop pose. Arching, rounding, and then from here, send your left arm to the front and right leg to the back. Dandayam Padmanasana, that's called. Balancing tabletop. Oh, that's the English word for it. Yeah, now check your breath. Check you're not holding it. That may be a sign that you're concentrating too hard or that it's not your thing today. Elbow to knee and away from you. Could be a bit higher as well. Round your back and arch, or just stretch to the back. That's an option too. Inhale as you open up. Exhale as you round. And then other side. Right arm, left leg. And we hold that balancing tabletop. Making sure your left shoulder is very strong here, the left arm that's holding you. It's really from the hand all the way up to the shoulder. And knee to elbow and reach away. Arch and round as you in and exhale. And you don't have to bring that leg high. I mean, mine is not super high, but yeah, it can be anything you want it to be. Back into tabletop, and from here, inhale, raise your right arm. Couple of breaths. And on an exhale, right arm to the left side. Adapt a little bit where you want that left arm to go. Could be up, could be behind you. You could bind here. So I'm going to bind if you want to join me there. Great. No need if that's not what you want. You can't actually see that bind very well, but anyway, never mind. Okay, back onto all fours and other side. We inhale and raise the left arm and hold up there as we keep breathing. You might guide the breath, then focus on long breaths, slow breaths, rather than thinking deep. And then on an exhale, left arm goes to the right side. Right arm might go behind you, but hand can stay on the ground as well if that's more helpful. And then here again, we're binding. Now you can see the other side of that bind, where your right arm is behind you and then reaches between your legs, as does the left arm. I'm not actually sure I'm binding on this side, if I'm being honest. No, I don't think I was. Anyway, back onto all fours and hands a little bit further forward so you can drop down. The easier way to do this is to bring the elbows to the ground first, so that the forearms are supporting you. And then you can decide to bring your hands onto your shoulder blades. You could also have your forehead on the ground. So I would suggest just bringing the chin to the ground if you feel your chest is comfortable on the ground. Otherwise, it's maybe a little bit much for your neck. And hips over the knees. Not an exact science. My hips are a little bit further towards the back in this one, but just a rough thing, so that we're really going into the whole of the back here, especially that mid back, and we slowly come into child's pose and onto all fours from here. We inhale and raise the right leg. Exhale, bring the knee to the dropped head. Inhale, arch, foot to head. Exhale, knee to the dropped head. Breathing in, we arch. Breathing out, we round. And so on. But remember, not my rhythm, but yours. Your breath's rhythm. And then from here, tuck your left toes under. Raise the knee off the ground. And arch and round. Of course, if that's a bit much for you, just keep it on the ground. But if you do have it off the ground, don't let it rise and lower. Unless you do what I do now. Knee to the dropped head. We inhale and that leg straightens all the way. Exhale, knee to the dropped head. And a few more like that. So if that straightens, that right leg is bent. And then come forwards, hold, step that right foot in between your hands and raise your right arm. Right hand comes down, we step to the back and into a plank. And from all fours, we'll start the other side. So left leg goes up and knee to the dropped head. Inhaling as you arch, exhaling as you round. And then you can decide to go further, raising the right knee off the ground as you do these vyagrasana variations. On the next inhale, or the one after that, how well I know this, that right leg straightens and then knee to the dropped head. And again, make sure you adapt. Sometimes we just don't feel like doing something, and obviously I don't have you in the room with me, so just make sure this works for you today. There's nothing wrong with adapting. In fact, I like it. Now step the left foot in between your hands and raise your left arm. And then the hand comes down and we step into a plank. This plank will hold for a little bit longer. Because I can't see you, just a little reminder, we don't want the hips too high, but obviously we don't want to drop them. Now drop your knees, drop your chest and chin, elbows in, roll the shoulders to the back, raise the elbows and press them towards each other. And then from here, raise your toes if you want. If you're not ready for that, that's of course fine. And then lengthen the legs, drop your hips, raise the chest, look up. If you're lower than me, you might not have to, you shouldn't look up, maybe just to the front. So neck comfortable, everything comfortable here. Look to the right side if comfortable, and then keep the elbows in. So just making sure that you don't lose that alignment here. Elbows in, shoulders down, and then look to the left side. Could be all the way to the back. Again, never straining, and then tuck your toes under, push your hips to the back, right hand onto the left hand, just giving you a little bit more release in the back if you need it, and then hands to the right, left hand on top of the right. And back, we roll up, rounding the back, and from all fours, inhale, left arm to the front, right leg to the back, and as you exhale, grab hold. And look to your left shoulder, bend your right arm. So you want the elbow to go towards your rib cage rather than out to the side, so that you're using the tricep rather than the bicep. And it really just has to be a tiny bend. We release and round and move into the hips, and then inhale, left leg away from you, and exhale, bind. Looking to the right side, to the right shoulder, maybe all the way to the back. Maybe bending that left arm. So there's always the option of doing something different. I would say try on the other side what you tried on the first side, but you know, sides are different, you are different. Just see what's better for you, and then tuck your toes under, push your hips up, walk your heels gently into the mat one by one. Press your shoulders to the back and lift them. And then drop the knees and straighten the legs. Drop the knees, so not all the way onto the ground, and straighten the legs again. Pushing knees down and coming back up. A few more like that. And then drop your hips. You bend your legs, hips go almost to the ground. Arm goes up and over, and we straighten into a full side plank. Back, drop your hips to the right side, raise your left arm, send your arm to the front to straighten the legs. And release onto all fours and into Ashtanga Namaskar. Breathe into your cobra and breathe out into downward dog or mountain. Inhale, right leg toes up and move into your ankle. Yeah, I don't think we did that at the beginning, so there we go. Flex your foot, drop your heel, knee is high, and then we bring the right foot to the front, left heel to the ground, and breathe in, coming into Warrior One or Virabhadrasana. Gracious hero. Vir, the hero, you probably know that from Virasana, where we're sitting on the heels. Actually, Virasana is where we're sitting next to the heels, so in between the heels. Sorry, here's my explanation. Interlocking the hands behind you, come forwards and down into a pyramid. Sorry about that, I hope you looked. And then left hand down, raise your right arm into Parivrit Trikonasana. Hands down, drop your left knee, one of my real favorite postures, Anjani Asana. I also just love the story of Anjani and Hanuman and his whole life. I think that's why everyone really likes, why he's such a much beloved god, because we can learn so much from him. We step back, we raise our left leg, and remember a little bit of movement into the ankle, and then flex your foot, drop the heel, knee stays high, hip pushes up, and we breathe in. And as we exhale, we step that left foot to the front, right heel to the ground, and inhale into Virabhadrasana. And trying to give that little push to the front with the right hip, to the back with the left hip. Interlock the hands, squeeze your shoulder blades, straighten your left leg as you come down. And apologies again if you missed that on the other side because I didn't give you that cue. I'm still getting used to this. And release, right hand down, left arm up. Take care to keep that back foot on the ground. So you want the heel in touch with the ground. You want to feel every part of the foot in touch with the ground. You can always step the foot further forwards. Just because mine are quite far apart doesn't mean they have to be. And then from here down into that low lunge, Anjani Asana. The little Hanuman, Anjani because it means son of Anjana, the water nymph that was desperately seeking a child, and then Vayu, the wind god, took mercy on her, or was admiring her for being so, praying all the time for that child. We're stepping back and raising the right leg again. Breathe in as you do that, breathe out as you flex and drop that heel again. And then from here, if you want, grab hold of that right heel, press the heel further down towards the buttocks. But if you feel that that strains the neck, or obviously if you feel that you're not balanced enough for that, that's completely fine. Helps a bit to slide that left foot out. So the heel could be on the ground, for example. That's what I'm doing just now, as you can see. And then right hand down, right foot to the front, left heel to the ground. We breathe in, coming into Warrior One again, just as before. And this time will stay for a little bit longer. So this is my aim for today's class, just doing the same and yet not. So we'll just have a little bit more time to explore. And you might close the eyes here. That feels like something you can do. As always, the slowness comes with a lot more awareness in many ways. We're not rushing, we're feeling the breath. We can feel subtle differences as well from one moment to the next. Like how deep we might feel that stretch into the left leg, or the warmth, the strength in the right leg. Now we're still actively pushing that left hip gently to the back. Good. Lower the hands again, interlock the hands, and straightening the right leg, slowly come forwards and down. Arms go as far to the front as they can, or hands. But of course, if you need to hold onto the ground here in Parsvottanasana, that's completely fine. just somewhere to hold and give you the option to feel the breath and to feel any other subtle changes that happen from one moment to the next. So that's literally how we can keep ourselves from being unaware of what's going on in the body, keep ourselves from getting, well, certain things that accumulate over time. Of course, there's accidents we have no control over, but things don't just suddenly appear. And that's the power of interoception, of being aware of what's going on in you, being able to say at a more timely moment, okay, this isn't good for me, I'm stopping this now. My knee is maybe not hurting yet, but there's something going on that may not be good if I don't stop doing this or that. So that's our aim. Release, and left hand comes to the ground. We raise the right arm. The chin might go up, but it really doesn't have to. It needs to be working within how deep you're twisting, within what the neck is capable of, what's comfortable here. And we don't need to overstretch. Breathing, or rather being aware of the breath. We can't help but guide it a little bit. That's the funny thing. And then right hand comes down, we bend the right leg and drop the left knee to the ground. Back into Anjaneyasana, sinking as low as we can here. Making sure that, of course, we're holding us in place, right? But this is more an exercise in flexibility than it is in strength. That's why we want to make sure the hips drop quite low and to the front, rather than us keeping ourselves here and maybe basically keeping that left leg from working hard. It stretches, it's not holding you. And then, of course, closing the eyes is always an option. But it's also not for everyone, not just with conditions you may have that might prevent you from it, but also sometimes, as much as I think it can help you hone that sense of interoception and equilibrioception of balance, release and step into Parvadasana. Inhale, raise your left leg. Exhale, flex the foot, drop the heel. Take your time raising the left arm if you want to for that bind. And keep the right arm really, really strong. You're not letting yourself come forward, basically. The hand and elbow are not in one line. The elbow is far away from the hand. And left hand down, left foot to the front. Right heel down, arms and torso up into Virabhadrasana. That was a terrible accent there. No judgment. Again, you might give that closing of the eyes a try. Yes, and what I was going to say, I spoke to one of my students, and he said that he feels when he closes the eyes, he escapes. He's not present. So that's something that everyone needs to decide for themselves. Yes, that's a great thing to do for your balance, but it may also not be the right thing for you. In my opinion, though, more often than not it is. Just saying, give it a try. Float the arms down, squeeze your shoulder blades interlocking the hands and let yourself come forwards. Left leg long, spine long as well. So really don't try to just drop and round your back towards that left leg. Keep yourself long. It might be nice to focus on the breath in the back as well as the front. isn't it interesting when we become aware of something, it's almost harder to then not be aware of it anymore after a while. I had that interesting experience when I was doing an EEG, and they asked me to count my heartbeats without sort of touching the chest or anything. And it became very easy. First I thought, okay, I can't feel it. Then I did, and it just kept being there after that. Right hand down, left arm up into that revolved triangle, making sure the back foot stays on the ground, and not just the toes, the whole of the foot. And what sometimes happens there at the back as well is that we kind of lean inwards a little bit more, so towards the inner edge. So keep that outer edge of the foot active as well. Press it down into the mat. Just to prevent yourself from, leaning inwards a little bit. And that will be a slightly deeper stretch here as well for the back of the leg. Also make sure the neck is comfortable. Don't worry if you need to change position in any way. That is the number one rule in long holds. Sometimes we come into something that's too deep for us or ends up being too deep for us. We release into Anjaneyasana, taking our time, raising the arms, so just making sure that that right knee, for example, is comfortable as well. You can always double up the mat as well. And then really allow your hips to sink and get heavy. Again, it'll be easier in some postures to close the eyes than in others. That's very different for everyone. I have this remarkable student in her 70s who can just stand in vyagrasana or the tree pose for a long time. It's really quite humbling. And the idea is not to I say that a lot. It's not to master it, to perfect it. Yes, that's great. It shows that we're calming the mind essentially. Release and step back into Padvadasana. But what it really is that the consistency of it is the nice thing, because ultimately, whether we're super excited or we're super aggravated, it's the same thing. It means stimulation of our sympathetic nervous system. And if we're within that parasympathetic one, that's where we're calm, that's where we can balance better. And that's something that's what we should all strive for, essentially, that contentment, not the happy excitement, but the contentment. As you're staying in Padvadasana, obviously make sure that you're not suddenly sinking into the posture. If you're so you can see I'm working with so I've got a yoga towel or whatever you would call it, that's on top of my mat. And that is much more slippery than a mat. A mat is essentially designed to help you not slip, right? So here you're working much harder if you have a towel. Roll forwards into a plank. Hold that plank with the eyes closed if you like. Making sure that the moment you feel that your hips are dropping and you're arching the back or something, that you drop your knees instead. You do not have to stay in that full plank. So if you want to work harder, that is obviously that next step. I mean, I did not have a yoga mat in my life until I was in my 30s, and Mira and I started our company, Pathak Yoga, which was around about 10 years ago, 2014, 2015, something like that. And we bought mats for our corporate clients. And until then, I was working with a very thin sort of bed sheet of the 70s. And boy, does that make you work hard. Because there you need to focus every part of your body on balancing. Eyes open probably, I would say, as you raise your right arm and roll onto the left side here into a side plank. And you want to try and get that right hand to the ground, not changing the position of the hips or anything. So really imagining leaning against a wall, but then rather than reaching for the front, reaching down. And your feet can also be on top of each other. I would suggest both feet on the ground so that you're stretching a little bit more deeply into the side. So if you're raising the foot, obviously that takes away from that side stretch a little bit. Nothing wrong with that if you don't need the side stretch. Again, it's up to us to go somewhere that feels good for us. slowly come back into our plank, and then immediately on an inhale, I would say, open up to the other side. So left arm up and over to the front, and then trying to get that round shape going, as if you wanted the fingertips to touch the ground. Feet on top of each other or in front of each other. And breathe. I think I may have my eyes closed here. Feel free to do the same. And we come down and sit on our heels. We shake off the hands, and then a little bit of movement into the wrists, hands and fists, thumbs inside, just drawing circles in both directions. And then spread your fingers wide, flex the hands and go up and down. And you want to try and keep your hands straight, so ideally not bending at the knuckles. And then shake it off and come into child's pose. And if you're not subscribed to my online subscription platform yet, head to the description and click on one of the links over there for the full 60-minute class. And if you're leaving us here, thank you very much for joining.